Hi there, welcome to part 2 of our RevOps show series on forecasting. Previously, Doug and Jess took us through the importance of forecasting and broke down 5 methods of forecasting you need to know and use. If you haven't caught part 1 yet, hit pause, give that episode a listen, and then come back to this one. Today's episode, Doug and Jess focus on 2 critical reasons you should forecast and why you should never confuse those 2 reasons. They also dig into why forecasting is so challenging and offer strategies on how to create and fix forecasts. There are a lot of great insights here, so let's jump on in.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Yes!
We're back. I don't know why you're
back.
playing that, because we're back.
We're back because we
We
did
are
it.
back. We did do
pulled
it.
off.
We went to Chicago. We went to the second city. We did all the things. You went to Mr. Beef.
I went to Mr. Beef.
You
I
did.
went to Mr. Beef. As a matter of fact, we ended up having to reschedule the episode. I think I was wearing my Mr. Beef shirt for all you bear fans. I think I was wearing Mr. Beef on the day we were originally going to record.
Oh,
Instead,
sorry.
I'm wearing.
You're wearing our shirts from the meeting.
Offsite shirt, right? It's 106 miles to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I can now say I've been at Second City. I've done improv at Second City.
Mm-hmm. We can all say that. All of the lifters can say that.
Jess.
Mm-hmm.
Red ball.
Thank you. Red ball.
No, red ball. Thank you. Not
Red ball. Thank you. Red ball.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh, how quickly we forget.
Yes.
How
well,
quickly.
you know.
All the learning.
There are no rules,
Out the
Doug.
door.
There are no rules.
That's not true. As a matter of fact, just wait. Hold on. Isn't the whole point of what we're trying to get across with improv is improv's not just made up as you go along?
It's not. There's constraints, but no rules, Doug. And you just said no to me. That's my takeaway.
Well, by the way, I learned that that's BS. Because how many times in the show did they say no?
A lot.
Right?
It was a fascinating experience.
So the real story is it's not that you don't say no, it's that you have to advance it. You
Correct.
can't reject it. So they said no, and they advanced it. So actually, Jess, does that mean that no and is also okay?
No, because is okay. That's what we learned. No, because.
I didn't know
Yes,
that was an
and-
option.
Yes, and no, because.
Did we do no because?
Yes.
No, we did yes because. Did we do no because?
We did
did yes
yes,
because?
and we did yes,
We did
but.
no.
We did no, because.
Did we ever do no because? We did yes but. That's right. Did we ever do no because?
Yes.
Was I
no,
drunk?
because was. Yes. I think you probably were. I think you
Oh,
were
no
just
because. Oh,
high
right. No
on the
because
fact
was no.
that we were. Yes. I think you were high on the fact that we were at Second City. It was no, because. Yes, but.
Right.
Which
You're right.
is,
You're right.
Which
you're
is
right.
bad.
I just thought of that as no.
Well,
I just thought of that as no. Right. Okay.
I paid attention, Doug.
You did. You did. So what's your highlight? What's your highlight from Chicago?
From Chicago?
From Chicago. From the second city. By the way, Chicago is the second city.
It
Which
is.
is confusing to me. Can I tell you why that's confusing to me?
Why is it confusing to you, Doug?
I could be wrong, but I was always under the impression that Second City started in Toronto. That's where it started.
I think you were wrong because they talked us through the history, and I'm pretty sure they said
No, they
it started
said we
in
started
Chicago.
here in 1959. It didn't say
Okay,
where they
well-
started originally.
Well, Hannah, look it up and put it in the show notes.
Because it wouldn't make sense that they started in Chicago since Chicago is the second city. So
Okay. Maybe you're right.
what was your
Maybe-
highlight from this? They're in New York now too, Jess. Did you know that? Of course
I-
you knew that because you were paying attention.
I did know that. I didn't know that before we were there, but I learned that while we were there.
So did you say today I learned?
Today I learned. I was today years old. My highlight was probably the presentations that our team gave during
Our
the
team
meeting.
did rock. And Jess, you want to tell our wonderful listener? No, I'm just kidding. Our listeners, what the presentation was about?
They had to do presentations on the revenue acceleration framework, the best-selling book.
That's technically. They had to do presentations on the award-winning #1 bestseller, the Revenue Acceleration Framework.
Yeah, that too.
The multi-award-winning, multi-category #1 bestseller.
And you know what? Some of them wove that verbiage into their presentation.
They did.
And I think they got extra points for it.
You know where they lost points?
Where?
They showed a video of Jesse Winker grounding out to the second baseman of Cleveland Indians for the Nationals losing to the Guardians.
It was pretty glorious.
That is
there was
bullshit.
a lot of creativity. Like I was impressed and proud of our team. They did a great job.
And then they tried to make up for it by having a Bruce Springsteen clip. I feel like people were trying to manipulate me, Jess. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I was being manipulated.
Well, so the other team was trying to manipulate you by calling you a best-selling author. Best-selling author Doug Davidoff. Anytime that they brought you up, it was best-selling author Doug Davidoff.
Yeah, but see, you know what they missed?
What?
Award-winning.
Award-winning. They did miss award-winning. They did.
Did you see the picture someone texted me? I shared with everyone earlier today.
Yes, I did see that.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Now here's my question. Why weren't they reading the Revenue Acceleration Framework instead of that other book? Like, they should have the other book in the plane pocket, whatever. What do you call that? What's that called?
The pocket.
It is called the pocket. Okay.
Yeah.
Seat pocket. That's it.
Seat pocket.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So presentation.
What was your highlight?
Mr. Beef was no, actually, Mr. Beef was good. Oh, we had the whole. For those of you, Mr. Beef is the place that appears in and especially in season 1. I think it was Original Beef in the Bear. So any Bear fans, we were there. We got the full experience. There were the mother Fs. There were everything. It was so good. And the food, oh my gosh. It was so good. Actually, the highlight is the storm, the rain.
Yeah. So we were walking to the show at the Second City. So we did a workshop there and then we did the show in the evening. We were walking to the show and the heavens in Chicago decided to open up and it was pouring down rain.
I don't think you can call that pouring. I think that pouring doesn't
buckets.
Give the right.
It was buckets of water falling from the sky.
I could have jumped in a pool, and I would have been no less wet or no more.
You know what
wet.
though? The Second City sold a whole lot of sweatshirts that night.
I think 7 sweatshirts were
from our group alone.
procured.
I'm sure we weren't the only ones. Yeah, from our group alone, 7 sweatshirts.
I don't know. Some of the other people, they may have had umbrellas.
You know, and I almost packed an umbrella because I don't get weather where I live in San Antonio, and I was like, it could rain. I decided not to.
Well, my favorite was I'm looking at the app. I'm like, okay, well, it should stop in. Well, first it was like, okay, it shouldn't rain until, and then like, okay, well, actually, because I had it for Chicago, not the zip code. Then it was, it should stop. Then when I did the zip code, it was like, okay, it should stop in 5 minutes. And if you remember, it did slow down a little bit after that. We went out. And then it was supposed to be like 32 minutes before it started again. My favorite thing was the group that went under the overhang for one office building to go in. And at that point, we were like, yes. And everyone ended up coming out. And no one complained. No one.
No. And then the mom and me came out and I'm telling people, don't run. I don't want you to slip. Like, it was... Please stop running.
I noticed that you and Ash chose not to jaywalk.
Because I'm not a rule breaker.
So do you never jaywalk?
No, but I don't live. Well, I'm surprised Ash didn't because I don't live in a city like that. So like jaywalking is very unusual and uncomfortable for me. Like,
okay, so I got to tell you, you can no longer give me crap about the fact that we were in Atlanta and we walked out of the bar with open
different.
Containers.
I live in the South. That's different.
But jaywalking happens everywhere.
And I live in the South.
There was no traffic.
But we were in the South, and it's okay in the South.
It's okay to jaywalk. Why do they call it jaywalking?
I have no idea. Because there was a guy named Jay who got arrested for the first time for doing it. I don't know.
Maybe it's the route that someone took. They kind of, I don't know.
No clue.
So the funny thing about the jaywalking, the only person who traversed it without difficulty was Brad, because there was so much rain.
Puddle?
There was a pond.
Oh, yeah.
That went out probably about 4 feet from the curb. So I ended up, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but to find a place where I could get across without having to step in a pond, basically.
Well, Brad is 7 feet tall, so he was able to just walk over that.
Well, even he had a jump. Even he had a hop.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up to both where there wasn't water and enough space to get in between cars. I might as well have walked down to the crosswalk. Okay, so that was the offsite.
It was a great time.
That was the offsite. Where's the next offsite? Is the next offsite in Dallas?
Clear eyes, full hearts.
I mean, if we're gonna do that, it would technically be Salina, if I'm not mistaken, which is a suburb of Dallas. But no, probably not Dallas.
We're not to Dallas.
Probably not Dallas.
we would do San Antonio before we did Dallas.
We should do San Antonio. We go Gillies and ride the bull if we go to Dallas.
Because I could see us sometime doing the Alamo.
Doing the Alamo, so everyone can be unimpressed by it. Is that what you mean? Everybody
is it really that unimpressive?
Have you not been?
Really? Maybe probably when I was a kid.
It's teeny tiny in the middle of the city. It's very weird. So it's not
in the middle of the city.
Literally in the middle of the city.
Oh wow, that's weird.
There's a Ripley's, believe it or not, across the street.
You know what's interesting? Actually, now that we mention this, you asked me if I've been there, and I said I don't. I just said I don't really remember.
Yeah.
Which means I violated the battle cry. Remember the Alamo.
Oh.
I didn't remember the Alamo.
The Alamo is very the museum inside is very fascinating, but it's very underwhelming.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little worried that we've set the bar way too high, way too early. We've done a Disney offsite and took everybody into Epcot, and we've done a Second City workshop. So what are we doing next, Jess? What are you thinking?
Brene Brown.
Brene Brown? Isn't she
Brene Brown workshop? She is. See, so come here. I think actually. Oh no, she's in Houston, not Austin. She's in Houston. Come here. It's travelable for her. It's reasonable.
Houston?
No, come to San Antonio. Brene will come here.
Why do you want?
We can bring Brene here.
You don't want to leave? Actually, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to take a look at all the air tickets, and whoever tickets were the most expensive, that's where we're doing the next offsite.
Well, we know who that is. Hannah. She lives in Hawaii.
Yeah, no, we can't do that. So never
Hannah,
mind that.
you heard it here first.
No, never mind that. Man, if we did Hawaii, then we would definitely be. There would be nowhere to go.
I think the next one would be Colorado. That would be, or no, never mind. We don't have Colorado anymore. Never mind.
Actually, probably Harrisonburg.
Probably.
Because, although, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
There you go, listeners.
Bars been raised.
Where should we do our next offsite?
It has to be someplace warm because we're going to be going in the winter, and we always go someplace. We always have a goal of going someplace warm.
We should go someplace at the beach.
I don't disagree with that. All right, Doug.
The winter is my enemy. The beach is where I'd rather be. What are we talking about today, Jess?
We're continuing our conversation on forecasting today.
You know what the one problem with that is?
What?
With our offsite and everything going on, when did we record part 1? Do you remember anything that we said in part 1?
Did you just have this thought? Because I was worried about this yesterday, just so you know.
But luckily, someone put together a great outline for this episode.
They did.
So I felt like I'm caught up.
Someone with our meeting shirt on put this together. Okay, so last time we went through
previously. Come on, let's
why forecasting is important.
Hold on. Previously on the RevOps show,
we went over why forecasting is important, and we talked about the different types of forecasting. So
including when those types should be used and what the pros and cons are.
Yep. Including all of that. So for today, where I want to start is what are the
before
common...
you go,
okay.
Before you go,
Before
what do
I
you
go.
think the favorite part of today's conversation for me is going to be?
The favorite part of
What's
today's
the favorite
conversation?
section of our outline here that I'm looking forward
Why
to talking about?
forecasting is so hard?
That is not.
No? Fixing?
Nope.
Batting 1,000. Creating forecasting?
Nope.
Jesus. The two common purposes.
Yep.
So where we're starting.
Exactly.
Great. So let's talk about the two common purposes of forecasting.
There are two common. There are two reasons, two purposes, two jobs for forecasting. Never confuse the two. One is reporting performance up, and the most common, reporting to senior team, reporting to a board like entity. The other is managing the business. They're two different things. So I'll let you dig in from there. Where would you like me to go?
So can you expand on what it looks like when you're reporting performance to the board? Because it's actually interesting. This does connect to our meeting a little bit, because we did drills and like our team was confused about what are you actually trying to do when you report to the board. So can you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, now look, there are two different purposes. You're telling two different stories. I am not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that you lie to the board, that you deceive the board, right? But when you're reporting up, and especially when you're reporting to a board-like entity, you're telling a story as much as anything. And so what you're looking at here, there's my old joke. What's the difference between a mathematician, a computer programmer, and a scientist? Right? You ask them each what 2 + 2 is. The mathematician creates this complex formula that says equals 4. The computer programmer buys an NVIDIA chip, programs a complex algorithm to say equals 4, and the accountant takes you into a long tunnel, brings you into a soundproof room, seeks out bugs, and whispers, "What would you like it to equal?" When someone says, my favorite question that I have to not laugh at every time I hear it is, well, what does the data tell us?
Yeah.
Because the answer to what does the data tell us is, what would you like it to tell us?
Right.
Right. And by the way, one of the reasons that we get a lot of, our forecasting is bad, or there's something wrong with our CRM because it's not giving us the right forecasting. What they're really saying is we're not getting the numbers that we need to report what we need to report to the board.
Yep.
And if I don't report those numbers to the board, I'm going to get fired. That's the unstated element. Here's the reality: what the board doesn't actually want the full total truth. I mean, that's the honest. Like, if that has you dropping your jaw, I apologize. I mean, I know I've said this to some people, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And again, I want to emphasize: you do not lie. Like, if you're down, you don't talk about being, we're knocking the cover off the ball.
Right.
But you've got to figure out, like, what is it that you're looking for the board? What is it that you want for the board? Because sometimes your job here's what I would say is when times are difficult, you want to present your forecasting in an underlying positive light. When times are good, you probably want to unplay a little bit of it. I mean, yes, you want to sandbag a little bit. You want to prepare them for So there's an element, because by the way, when if I need more resources for the board and I'm telling you everything is great, what's the reason to give you resources? What you want to do with your forecasting, what you're looking to do with the forecasting for the board is support the overall story. And what you're really talking about, it's not about precision, and that's a mistake that I see made, is we try to get precision to the board too much. What we need to be talking about are trends, signs, and be talking to the board about what to expect over the next 9 to 18 months. Like, that's the time frame that a board and a forecasting element should be talking about. That 9 to 18 month and that 36 month out. That's really where you're talking about what are the opportunities that you're seeing, what are the challenges that you need to navigate to be able to achieve that. You're not, like, if you're using the exact same reporting and the exact same forecasting that you share with the board to manage the business, you're going to do a bad job reporting to the board and a bad job managing the business.
Okay, so how does managing the business differ from what you just talked about?
It would be improper for me to ask, how old are you, Jess? Did you ever see the show Dragnet?
Yes.
Joe Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Just the facts, man.
Yep.
Managing the business, you want cold, hard facts. What you're looking for in your forecasting for the business is intervention, right? What you're looking for with reporting. So when I'm delivering my reporting,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm delivering my forecasting to the board, I'm supporting my story. When I'm managing forecasting for my business, for managing my business, I'm looking for insight.
Mm-hmm.
Insight is what can I see here that I don't expect to see? What can I see here that says there's a move to make up, or there's something that I got to protect down, and to do that in a way that doesn't cause, that doesn't cause a major surprise. I want to learn it when I'm early. What good forecasting does in internal managing the business is it gives you a counterbalance to what you might be feeling or you might be seeing. One of the things I learned, things are never as good as they look and feel when they're going well, and they're never as bad as they look and feel when they're going poorly. Right. And so too often we let our numbers confirm our perceptions. And when we're managing the business, what I want, and by the way, when I'm reporting to the board, I'm more along the lines of giving answers. When I'm managing the business, I want to prompt questions. A good report, a good forecast prompts more questions than you've got the capacity to answer.
And you talked about what's the story you want to tell when you're reporting to the board. Should you also be thinking about that when you're looking at forecasting for managing the business? So what is the story I want to tell in relation to that as well? Those might not be the same stories, but
I want to be careful. I'm going to say stay away from the story when you're managing the business, because again, you can very easily fall into confirmation bias. Like here's the thing that I like about forecasting. It's not actually real.
Yeah.
Right. It's air. And here's the thing that I know 99.99% of the time, you tell me what the forecast number says it'll be, and I have great confidence that that's not the number that it's going to be. Right.
Yep.
So by the way, you should also typically be forecasting in ranges. I want to see something that doesn't, like, I'm looking for something that I don't expect. I'm going to talk about one of the reasons that forecasting is so hard is that it's really easy to confuse brains with the bull market.
Yep.
Right. Well, like what I'm looking for, I want my forecasting to establish hypotheses for why this is happening. And again, that's the question. Again, don't give me the answer why, stimulate the questions why. Because what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to sustain good performance, and I'm looking to buffer and reverse poor performance. Now, one of the challenges that you have is that there are far more good quarters than bad quarters.
Yep.
Right. Let me share this in a way that people might understand. If you're up 20% one year and down 20% the next year, you're down 4%. Right. It's called the arithmetic of loss.
Right.
Downs have far more damage than ups have benefit.
Yeah.
Plus, here's the other thing that happens. Jess, have you noticed that costs tend to go up over time?
I have.
Have you noticed that costs tend to go up whether or not performance goes up or down? Right?
Yep.
So one of the things is your good quarters, you're ahead of your rising costs, but when you have a bad quarter, right? And you're going to have good quarters and bad quarters. And remember, one of my favorite phrases here, right? If you jump off of an 80-story building, if you try hard enough, you convince yourself you're flying for the first 79 stories.
Right.
Right. And so because all things being equal, it's more likely that, I mean, by the way, if you're paying attention to forecasting, if that's something that's important to you, you're probably in the top, just on this alone, you're probably in the top third of all the businesses that are out there. Right. Because you're paying attention to it. You're gonna typically do better. So the danger is, all things being equal, you're probably going to be up. And if you start telling stories, right? I would say tell the story and then tell the like if you're going to do a story, make sure you tell the story, make sure you tell the counter story. Because again, what forecasting to manage the business is about, it's about being able to make better decisions.
Okay.
What forecasting to the board about is about giving you the room to make better decisions.
Makes sense. So you started to talk about this a little bit, but let's get into why is forecasting so hard?
Well, the first thing is, don't confuse brains with a bull market. Don't confuse brains with a bear market. Right? I mean, I still tell the story that the single best result we've ever had for a client, they were down 60% over 18 months.
Yeah.
Most people, I hope, are going, how are you guys still in business? Your the best result you've accomplished for somebody is well their market was down 80%.
Right.
This was 2008. This 2008 into 2010. Right, in the commercial construction space, etc. Not a particularly good time. And literally the CEO told us, you know what, if we hadn't worked with you, we'd be out of business.
Yeah.
And by the way, once the market got good, they bought 3 of their competitors, so on, right?
Yep.
So the environment has more to do with your results than anything that you're doing, right? It's like playing poker, it's like playing blackjack, right? You're going to go on rolls. There are going to be rolls, right?
Yep.
The moment you start thinking, the gods are in my favor, the cards are looking out for me.
Yep.
Right? That's like, okay, the casino's got you. We got you hooked.
Yep.
You're tilted. So, by the way, it's really, really hard to do that.
Yep.
We got caught in a gap. We got caught. I clearly convinced myself that this wasn't just good. Because by the way, we were seeing sustained outperformance when other people, like the performance was reversing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That lag. I know we have a clean rating, so Hannah, if you need to take this out, go ahead and let me know, and I'll record another word for you. The lag will fuck you every time.
Yeah, for real.
So that's the first one. The second thing is, and this is where I see lots of mistakes made, is reversion to the mean. The 8th wonder of the world, reversion to the mean. You're going to go back to average. And by the way, one of the things that we miss, right, is sustained periods of outperformance. Now, I think when people start paying attention to forecasting and they have a meaningful conversation around forecasting, that's a sign that their business acumen. That's a sign of greater business acumen. And one of the things that happens as you have more business acumen is you pay attention to public markets more. And I think paying attention to public markets is great. You learn a lot about business paying attention to public markets because there's a story, there's numbers, there's elements and proof. But realize, that company that has met or exceeded earnings for 26 consecutive quarters, what you're getting is their forecast to the board. They are not giving you the business performance. I know this for a fact, right? The real underlying operating numbers are far, far, far more volatile. It's called financial management.
Yeah.
Right? So we see that and we all build this expectation of, we should be able to predict and we can't miss our number in this. And so I still remember a conversation I had with a friend of ours, and he had a great quarter. right? He had beaten, by the way, the board was pissed at him when I talked to him because he was violently wrong on his forecasting 3 quarters in a row. And he was telling me, he said, Doug, here's the thing that pisses me off. We're ahead of where I said we were going to be 3 quarters in. And the reason was Q1, he blew it out of the water.
Yep.
Right. His forecast was wrong. His forecast was significantly wrong.
Right.
Then because he blew it out of the water, he raised the forecast for Q2 and Q3.
Right. Sure.
To which he then, he underperformed. Not only did he miss the number that he set for Q2, he missed what the original number for Q2 was. Right.
Yeah.
You know, we had a quarter our Q1 last year, we were at our half year number on new business. And I got asked a lot, so are you raising your forecast? I said, no. If we beat the number again this quarter, then I'll raise it. Right. But, you know, I knew there was going to be reversion to the mean.
Yep.
Right. And that is, by the way, reversion to the mean, stated in another way, is it's never as good as you think it is when it's going well. It's never as bad. The problem with reversion to the mean is you just don't know when it's going to happen.
Right. Yep.
Right. And that's why you got to take into account periods of time. Right. Which connects, by the way, to the next issue, which is data. We look at the company that's had, you know, that's their earnings every quarter for the last 26 quarters, and they've got millions of transactions. You close 1,842 deals a year.
Yep.
Guess what? I'm going to have far more predictability. My variance is going to be just as bad if I take a look at any set of numbers.
Right.
But the law of large numbers plays to my advantage. So the size of your data set and the size and the sets. So the size and how many repetitions have you had, right? So my favorite is we're a disruptive startup with predictable forecasting. Right?
Yeah.
Guess what? If you're disruptive, you're going to have disruptive, right? By the way, here's the other thing. What are you telling? Like, what is the business model? What is the game that you're playing? I'll tell you who loves high variant earnings. You know who loves earnings that are all over the place all the time and are not easily predictable on a quarter by quarter basis? Warren Buffett.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They're called. He calls them lumpy or chunky earnings.
Yeah, lumpy.
Right. He loves reinsurance companies because reinsurance companies will lose billions of dollars 3 years in a row, and then make 3 times that in 1 year.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, you know what? I've got the money. I've got the money that gives me the time. And at the end of the day, the bank takes dollars.
Yep.
Not and what he says is, you know, people overpay for consistency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sure.
Right. So
Makes sense.
you take a look at the PE ratio of a company that's meeting their you know, that consistently they're growing their earnings by 10% every quarter or 10% every year, whatever number, right? They'll pay a lot more for that, for something that's all over the place, even if the company that's all over the place actually ends up making more money. So what's the period of time? Right? So that's the set. So the size, how much data, right? I mean, we close, you know, our best year, I think we closed 100 some opportunities. It means our forecasting is going to be really, really variant.
Right.
Right. And so you have to understand that. That's why, you know, establishing a confidence level is really important. My favorite quote about this, I forget who said it, but by the way, Jess, it is, you can get the quote in
the best-selling,
the award-winning. A world championship poker player. He said, on a nightly basis, 90% of my results are luck. On a weekly basis, 50% is luck. On an annual basis, 3% is luck. Right? So that time frame and that data set, so the other element is how good is your data, right? If you don't have good process, if you don't have strong utilization and adoption of your tools and your systems, and people are logging in things late and all that, garbage in, garbage out. So that's why it is hard.
Okay. So how do you create a forecast? What goes into creating a forecast?
So first question is, are you managing, are you looking to do a revenue forecast or a new sales forecast? If you're looking to do a revenue forecast for the vast majority of companies out there, the revenue forecast is going to be far more driven by what your existing business base is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. I remember, one of the difficulties that you have when you do top-down forecasting or top-down targeting, right?
Yep.
Top-down is how much do we want to grow this year?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember, you'll know the company that I'm talking about. That there was a time where 70% of the revenue was new business.
Mm-hmm.
Then 50% of the revenue was new business. Then 30% of the revenue was new business. Then 15 to 20% of the revenue was new business, right? But they kept using their new business number, that growth rate from those previous years, to guide the growth rate further.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have the mechanisms to grow their existing business. And so suddenly it started missing their numbers, got them in trouble with banks. And so you've got to be able to calculate your existing business. What's your backlog? What's your bad payment? What's your, if you're a subscription business, what do you have in existing subscriptions?
Yep.
What's your renewal? What's your churn rate? Right. You need to have that model, and then you add your sales forecasting on top of that. Sales forecasting, and here's another reason why sales forecasting is so freaking hard. You got to be you're not forecasting one thing. You're forecasting three things. Mm-hmm. Right. You're forecasting value, and by the way, in today's market, that is really hard. The number of times I'm seeing deals at the last minute, you win the deal, but the size of the deal gets pared back.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost like I've got one friend. He's happy if the deal's only pared back 30%. He's gone to the point of and by the way, this is another reason why forecasting is hard. This is why CRM implementation is bad. He said to me, look, I'm happy if it's pared back 30%. So he has taken, to manage his manager, he puts the expected deal amount at 70% of what he thinks the deal amount's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now, he's somebody that the deal amount typically has a significant impact on other costs and capacity, because there's a heavy services component to what he does.
Yep.
So what that means is, if I'm under-reporting, if it turns out that I'm under-reporting my deal value, it means you're under-hiring, because you're looking at this and you're planning for one level of capacity to another. So you've got to, so you're forecasting what's the value of this deal going to be, what's the timing of this deal going to be, right? Which is all about progression. With what's the probability of this deal going to be, right? So you've got to get to accurately forecast a deal, you've got to get all three right. And let's remember, if you are forecasting a 50% probability, that means for everyone you win, you're going to lose. Yep. Right? So and by the way, if I'm forecasting if I told you there's a 75% chance of winning this deal, you're probably going to walk away and say, okay, good. So I can count on this one.
Right.
No, what I'm telling you is 1 out of 4 times we're going to lose.
Right.
And I got news for people. When it comes, especially in this environment, there's no such thing as 75% probability until maybe when the paper is signed, I can go above 75%.
Right.
But there's so much that can go wrong that is outside of your control today. I mean, heck, your key contact could get a new job, could get laid off. There's 100 things that can happen that I'm going to bet you are not accounting for in your problem. So you've got to get those 3 things right. And then, by the way, if you're going to make this revenue forecasting, you then have to, it's very rare that someone signs $1 million deal, wins $1 million deal, and $1 million of revenue is generated that month.
Yeah. So are you saying you should have both revenue forecast and sales forecast?
It depends. If times are good, then yes, you should. If times are bad, I find delusion is
oh my God,
helps you get through the day. So you might not want to. No, you need yes, you need to do both.
All right. So what do we do to fix forecasting? Like how do you do forecasting right? How do you ensure you have this set up the right way?
So we're going to link to a previous podcast we did on this, which gets a little bit more into managing individual forecasts on the sales side. We'll also link to a couple of articles that we've written on it. Let's talk about the elements that impact forecasting. And the first element is demand type. And I think that not enough people pay attention to demand type. What is the triggering event here? Is this a discretionary purchase? Is this a non-discretionary purchase? Is this structural demand? We work with a client. The number one reason that people buy their category, this is my favorite number one reason. Do you know what the number one reason is, Jess? They have to. Right?
Yep.
It's a regulatory requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So you have to buy this. It is not a question of, are you going to do this? It's a question of, who are you going to use to do this? And basically there are three choices. Are you going to do it themselves? Well, to do it themselves, they've got to start a whole business that does that. So it's very unlikely that a customer would ever consider that. So it's either us or a competitor.
Right.
That drastically increases the predictability of something.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
By the way, what I would say when you're looking at structural is there an incumbent or not? If there is an incumbent, reset your probability. Right.
Well, that's
it is a
interesting.
whole lot easier and more predictable to win new ground than it is to take ground from somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. And again, remember, there's timing, there's all those different things. Look, we're in a trap right now. One of the mistakes that we made was, and it's real easy to treat non-discretionary as it's structural.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's driven demand for new CRM and CRM implementations is that it makes me sad how antiquated and poor mid-market tech stacks are and how disconnected they are. And like, you cannot run your business this way. You have to do this. The thing about so it's not really discretionary. And by the way, fixing the cost side of things tends to be non-discretionary.
Mm-hmm.
Generating more good things tends to be more discretionary, right? It's much more of a choice.
Yeah.
Now, if we've reported to the board, like if we're a public company and we've reported to the board, discretionary can kind of become non-discretionary, but you've really got to look, what's the underlying element of what drives demand? Structural is the most predictable. Non-discretionary is next. Discretionary is unpredictable. Account for that appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Forecast timing in more of a real, in more a real way. But again, we pursue this idea of precision. This deal is predicted to close on June 15th.
Mm-hmm.
What? Huh? We use end of month because all I'm doing is I'm approximating month, right? What I'm really looking at is trying to predict within a quarter. And by the way, if I can get it right, plus or minus 30 to 45 days, we're doing well. Because remember, just because it's end of month to you, and as much as you want it this month, if the business is thinking about timing, they want it next month. Because you want to recognize the revenue this month, they don't want to recognize the expense until next month, right? So what you want doesn't really matter so much to the person who makes the decision.
How frequent is that timing mistake? Like, are you seeing folks trying to be too precise?
Out of every
frequently?
10 opportunities, I would say 10 of them are wrong about timing.
Okay.
It kind of comes back to structural, non-discretionary, discretionary. What is the business rationale to this? So, if it's a regulatory thing, I mean, it's going to take us 90 days to do X. We need to have this. We need to meet this regulatory requirement by January 1st. So, okay, they're going to make a decision in September.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Right, like that. What's the rationale behind the timing?
Okay.
But again, one of the things that, when you're looking at large businesses and they're reporting, they get the timing right because not because they're more accurate. They just have, for every 10 deals that extend 90 days, 10 deals got pulled in. Or what happens is they spend just a shitload of money to pull forward deals, which, by the way, I mean, one of the reasons that we see cost of growth going up is because we're spending so much effort pulling forward deals. We're putting ourselves, I mean, it is a wimpy strategy. I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Right.
And then the other element, and I don't know what's happened to the world of sales, Jess, because this used to be something that was talked about all the time. And now I say it to people, and you would think I'm speaking a foreign language that no one's ever, you would think I'm speaking Klingon.
Yeah.
And that's deal quality.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And no one tracks deal quality anymore. Right. Those are the elements that impact your ability to forecast something. And so if you want to fix this, you've got to build a deal profile.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the deal profile needs to have 4 core elements to it: a fit score, a quality score, a win confidence, and a timing confidence. Right. So quality, which is quality of the deal, what's driving the deal. And by the way, what's the highest quality deal? Structural. They have to do something. Our ERP is no longer being supported as of December 30th, 2025. They have to do something.
Yeah.
That is structural demand. That's going to raise your quality.
Yep.
They're cheap. That's going to lower their fit score.
Right.
They operate in a very low margin environment. That's going to lower your fit score if you're selling a premium product.
Yep.
By the way, if you're selling the low cost option, or you could say if you're selling a low cost option, they operate in a low margin business.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to raise your fit score.
Sure.
Right? So the fit score and the quality score. Fit is about the customer. Quality is about the opportunity. Win confidence. What's the likelihood that, how am I, like, what am I saying? We're going to win this hand. And timing confidence. Hey, I'm really confident that we're going to win this, but I'm not confident. I have very low confidence about the actual timing of this, because there is no, by the way, a truly discretionary purchase is always going to have lower confidence on timing because they don't have to do anything.
So those two are really interesting to me because I don't hear that talked about. So I hear forecast confidence talked about, but it's talked about broadly.
Yeah, and it's still far too much. I mean, our forecast confidence is best is commit, maybe. Commit, profit, maybe.
The timing aspect is interesting to me because I think forecast confidence gets talked about and it's thought about of what's my confidence that I'm going to win this.
Mm-hmm.
You can know you're going to win it, but you don't know you're going to win it in the next quarter. Like that's the thing that's, and if you look at just thinking about our sales cycles with how long they are and some of the folks we've nurtured for years, like we know we're going to get that. We might not be all that confident in the timing. So it's an interesting thing.
So I don't think about months. I think about quarters.
Right.
The timing confidence that I want is 6-month periods. And I'm playing an annual game. If as we get bigger, and if we wanted to scale, the game that we're playing wouldn't work. We would have to,
right. Yeah.
Like, we would have to do things. One of the challenges of scaling service businesses is what you have to do to get the volume to be able to have the predictability to scale.
Yep.
And the economics don't always favor you, because one of the things that people miss about growth is growth eats cash.
Yeah. Yep. I have a couple of takeaways. This was really interesting. Don't mix your forecasting for the board with your forecasting for the business. Managing the business forecasting should give a counterbalance to what you're feeling. Like, I think it's in the statement that it's counterintuitive, but again, things that I don't think VP of sales and reps think about is we want to kind of counteract that feeling side, because that's the whole point of forecasting. I don't see people paying attention to the factors that impact forecasting: demand type, timing, deal quality. To your point, we're trying to be too precise. Those things are not necessarily going to drive precision, but having that kind of, it's more heuristic is kind of how I'm thinking about it. And then when you think about timing, what's the rationale behind the timing? Like, I don't think we're thinking about that at all.
And I would tell you that the value of forecasting should be measured in the ability to make better decisions, not in the aspect of being right. Being right is a byproduct, but the reason that you forecast is to manage the business, and managing the business is measured by decision quality. Yep. And you know what? If you focus on consistently increasing decision quality, you'll be saying no to shitty RevOps.
Until next time.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of the RevOps Show. Thank you for tuning in this week. One takeaway that really stood out to me from this episode is that when times are tough, you want to present forecasting in a positive light. But when times are good, it's better to underplay things a bit. It's not about precision, it's about discussing the trends over the next 9 to 18 months. If you like what you heard today, you can listen to the rest of the show on your favorite podcast listening platform. Follow the show, rate the show, share the show even. We would really appreciate it. And also, big news, we are now on YouTube at the RevOps Show. If you have a spare minute, go to our show notes or go straight to YouTube, find our channel and subscribe. We would love to see you over there as part of our community. And if you would like to follow Doug, Jess, or Lyft, you can find us all on LinkedIn. And until next time, just say no to shitty RevOps.